All right, we are officially live. Welcome, everybody, to the Fly High Wi Fi Mental Health Podcast. We are sitting here with Alyssa, and I will let you introduce yourself since you know who we are.
I'm Casey. I'm Alyssa's childhood best friend, and I'm just out here for the week, and she invited me on her podcast. So, hi, everyone.
We're happy to have you, and we are going to discuss today children's mental health and the feeling wheel. It's been a few weeks since we've been back, so forgive us, and we will try to get back on a steady schedule as we are all super busy during the summer months with work, everything going on. So, say we just get right into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So we wanted to focus mainly on depression and anxiety, but when I was looking into it, I found more of just like a broad mental health of children in the US.
Okay.
So it does hit anxiety and depression in there. So from this database for children's mental health, some indicators of positive mental health that are present in most children from 2016 to 2019. So this is actually pre-COVID. They're doing studies right now to see how COVID has infected like children, because I know people joke and say they're a COVID baby, but that is impacting the mental health of children. So they're doing studies right now. So this is from 2016 to 2019.
Okay.
That affection was shown in 97% of children with good mental health. Resilience was shown in 87%. Positivity was 98%, and curiosity was 93% among children ages 3 to 5. Curiosity was 93%, persistence was 84%, and self-control was 73% among children of 6 to 11 years old. And then curiosity was 86%, persistence was 84%, and self-control was 79% among children ages 12 to 17-year-old. And that was for children that was like being shown positive mental health indicators.
Okay.
And then the switch, this study was showing facts about mental disorders in U.S. children. So they hit ADHD, anxiety problems, behavioral problems, and depression. These are estimates between 3 and 17, so they didn't break it down into the different years like they did above. Again, for 2016 through 2019, ADHD was seen in about 10% of children, so approximately 6 million children. Anxiety was seen in 9.4% of children, approximately 5.8 million. Behavioral problems were seen in about 9% of children, so approximately 5.5 million, and depression was seen in about 4.4%, so approximately 2.7 million children.
So when the lowest number of all those was depression.
Yep.
Okay.
And they went further into this study, and so some of these numbers are going to intertwine. If a child was seen to have one of these, they typically had a chain of the rest of them. Okay. So if they had anxiety, they tended to have depression, or they may have been linked to having ADHD.
Okay. As we have learned through a lot of these studies, they usually do somehow tie together.
Mm-hmm. So some of these conditions commonly occur together. So from that same study, the children having another mental health disorder was most commonly found in children with depression. So that lower number of depression was found that
multiple.
73% of them also had anxiety.
Which anybody that has depression might be able to tell you that anxiety usually creates the depression or vice versa. So that makes sense that almost 75%, three out of every 4 people that have it.
Yep. And then About 50% of them also experienced behavioral problems, so they were all like intertwined. So
Okay.
those numbers kind of go together. Same with depression and anxiety. Then it goes into if the child has it at a young age, that depression and anxiety is more likely to increase over time. So we were talking when we were talking about picking this
Right.
topic that a lot of mental health stuff starts young and kind of, I don't like the word blossoms, but like grows into
Measured.
Like that.
festers into
Here
adulthood.
you go. Yeah. So a lot of the things we deal with adults like stem from our childhood, and not all of them, but a lot of the stuff, like for instance, those like in a really deeper topic have maybe molestation or anything like that have created a lot of things later on down the road for adults in their childhood. So things you just find out more and more. PTSD as childhood comes out more and more in adults, more than they think, because they bury it for so long that they tend to forget about it until it actually reoccurring thing.
If you want to bring up that bar chart.
The bar?
Yeah.
Right. It's up. Oh, I brought it up only on my screen. Sorry. You have it in front of you though?
I
It's
have it
in front of the stream, yeah.
Okay. So this kind of just represents what we were just saying. The only one that typically drops the older you get is the behavioral disorders. But all the other
Okay.
ones you can see a dramatic increase as they get older, and that kind of follows into adulthood as well. So depression.
Oh. All right. So in the highest that we see here is the 10% in the 12 to 17-year-olds and the anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Which 10% might not seem like a lot, but it really is a lot when you break down the numbers. You said it's 5.5 million. Yeah. So think about that. That's 5.5 million kids in the world that probably, I'll say a good portion of them aren't even being diagnosed or treated for the problems that they're facing.
Yep. And a lot of the next, not the next one I have, but the one after, it talks about like different ways of getting ahead of it and getting the children the help that they do need. And it kind of talks through steps. So that'll be after I have like 4 packets. All treatment is going to be different based on the child, especially depending on how they're all intertwined. So if a child is just depressed, it's obvious the treatment's obviously going to be different than a child that is depressed, has anxiety or behavioral disorder. They're all going to be different. So you just have to be able to go through that process and understand what the child needs. Again, it goes back to the same as like adults. Everybody's journey is different.
Yes.
As an adult, I don't want to say we have a better grasp, but we do have a better grasp than a child because they're still learning what emotions are. They're trying to figure out things, and
they're still developing them. Like their brain's developing and everything.
So they're not sure how to express kind of what's going on. So they need that person to advocate for them, essentially.
Yes.
You can take down that. I don't know if you still have the bar chart up or not, but you can take that down.
I took it down.
The next topic we had talked about is the suicide rates within children. Based on a recent statistic in the US, suicide is the second leading cause for children in the US, and the ages 10 to 24. So it's
10 to 24.
kind of, it's broad range. And if you read into the study, they didn't do anything below 10 years of age because the child didn't understand what they were like saying, because a lot of children don't understand the concept of death, so they didn't really feel like it was viable to put it in the study.
Okay.
But it does say they did talk to children under the age of 10 that would talk about how like they didn't really want to be alive, or they had suicidal ideations, but they didn't know truly if the kid understood
They were saying.
what that meant. Yeah.
Right. And
Or
I can touch on that. I know there's a few people in our community. His son took his own life last year, and I know I heard him like crazy, and he went down to it. And I never really sat down and talked with him, but I wanted to ask because I know, like when kids get that, I wish I was dead. I wish I wasn't here. I wish I didn't exist because I would be a bad kid, kind of thing. And I know I remember myself saying those things as a kid, and like now I see my kids when they act bad come through with the same kind of thing, and we sit down and talk to them about it. Before, when I didn't, my parents didn't talk to me about it. But the more and more we learn about these studies and we go over these things, it makes me sit back and like think and like take a different route than what my parents did for me, because they were like, okay, take your ass to your room. They didn't care if they just knew I wasn't saying nothing. So it's tough being a parent now. You got to be strict, and you realize that they're just saying things, but they might not completely understand them. But now it's our job to make them understand what they're actually saying, and the consequences of their words and the severity behind them. And I don't feel like that was taken as serious back in earlier ages from us. So it's big now. Then this is why I wanted to touch on this topic so much, because I think it needs to be addressed more and it needs to be talked about more, because I'm seeing more and more in people's Facebook feeds and on the news and stuff about children's suicide, and it's still just not brought up enough.
And I can probably kind of touch on this a little bit myself. Just not too long ago, I have 4 stepchildren, and I have 3 sons and 1 daughter. And the daughter kind of was going through bullying a lot, and she kind of brought up the fact that she didn't want to be alive anymore and everything like that. And she's 11 years old. She's turning 12 next year. When my husband brought it up to his friends kind of just like brushed it off, saying, "Oh, she just heard her mom saying stuff like that whenever she was younger, so she doesn't know. She's just being like her mom. She's being over dramatic and stuff like that." And it's super upsetting to even think of the adult kind of just brushing it off, because if something were to happen, they would have been saying, "Oh, I should have listened to that little girl, and she did say, oh, I wish I wasn't here anymore." And then when we found out she was saying stuff like that, we did take her to like a psychiatrist and everything, and her therapist, and we had her talk it out and everything. And I mean, we kind of helped communicate with her a little bit to help her get stuff off her chest like that. So,
Right.
but yeah, a lot of people still kind of see it as like, oh, they're just being dramatic, they're just being kids and stuff like that, where they're not really listening to them anymore. But like you said, there's more and more people they're starting to listen, because they're going through the same things themselves. So
Right. And so let's be honest, social media, to me, I've always said this from the start of all this, it's the devil and it's God sent at the same time, right?
mm-hmm.
Our kids have way more access to the world than we ever did. They can see things that we never seen. They can hear things that we never heard, but it's all at the top of their, like at the tip of their fingertips. And they hear about these things more often. Cyberbullying, like I talked to Alyssa, we want to touch on this completely later because it's such a huge topic. It creates a lot of these things, right? So they have access and they hear these things, but they also have the ability to learn more too. So, like I said, it's a double-edged sword. It can be good, it can be bad. So I know the research is out there. The kids probably don't know how to look for it, but it's also easier for the parents because they might not have the money to take them to a psychiatrist or to get the mental health they need. So they might use the internet to do some research and maybe find something. So it's becoming more and more of a topic, and the numbers are out there easily at our fingertips because you can just Google it and find out now, versus you had to go to the library, look it up in a book or see. And then how long ago were those numbers updated? you know.
Mm.
So the statistics may be old compared to what they are now, where we can get them yearly. So. All right, I'm good on that one.
Okay.
Casey.
So some more statistics that I found within this study is non-fatal suicide attempts are more common within that age group. Roughly, there's about 200 suicide attempts for every suicide death. And then within that same one, roughly 157,000 individuals between that age of 10 to 24 receive emergency medical care for intentional self-inflicted injuries. So those are just failed suicide attempts essentially within that age group.
Okay.
So off of those, then it goes into some teaching points for people. When you have like a younger kid, your pediatric care can help you with this. They
Okay.
should actually be pointing stuff to you, but if you feel like you're saying you can't get them into a therapist or psychiatrist, you could be asking the pediatric care to give you direction and tips to help. There's also a 4-step thing to help this age group. It's called the ABCD.
Okay.
A stands for assess the risk. So you're just watching kind of what's going on and developing whether it is a risk situation. And like Casey was saying, sometimes it's better to be overly cautious than underly cautious.
I agree.
B is build help and reasons for living. C stands for connect, strengthen connections with productive adults. D is develop the safety plan.
Okay.
So I guess the safety plan would be for somebody if they are struggling with suicidal thoughts, and this could be for anybody, to have that plan for who you're going to reach out to when you're in that moment. If that person doesn't pick up for some odd reason because it's late at night, who are you going to call again? Or what's your backup plan to pull you out of that? Is it going for a walk? Is it XYZ? So what is your safety plan to protect against that moment?
Okay. Makes sense.
Big one for me is I learned always like just one more. Just do one more day. Just do one more XYZ. And just keep reevaluating. Just tell yourself just one more.
Yeah.
That might not work for other people. So you have to find something else that's your, I guess, way of keeping things going when you're in that dark moment. Just one more is my way of like, I can do just one more. And then the next day, it's usually I'm out of that headspace and I'm good to go.
I agree with that. I know there's days that you just got to find that motivation and distraction for yourself to get away from them dark moments for even a couple of seconds, even sometimes just a little reset.
So this next research is like, how can I tell if my child is depressed? So there's various different ways. In a child, you could see like a sad or bad mood constantly. You can see them being self-critical. Usually kids are kind of happy-go-lucky, free to the world. So if they're being very self-critical, you can kind of take a step back. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but if it's like a constant thing, you can kind of put that in your risk assessment for that ABC. Like, this might be a little bit of like something I need to watch. Lack of energy and effort, especially if it's changed from a normal thing that they're usually really into. So why did that effort change towards that? I don't know why soccer popped in my mind. Like to say they're really into soccer.
My kids start soccer in 2 days. So.
Just not enjoying things in general. Their sleep and eating habits have changed. And this one really stuck out to me when I was reading it. Aches and pains. So they just started instantly having aches and pains to the point where they just like didn't want to go to school, or it's a sign that there's something in the body. And it could be like growing pains and stuff like that. But if it's like constant where you're noticing like it's like every day I'm
Right.
XYZ and it starts to mess with their life, that's another red flag. And then it goes into what should I do if I think my child is depressed? Talk with your child. Oh, go ahead.
Does it give like resources like the people to seek out to first?
It goes in like a
Okay.
of how you should do things. It says talk with your child about the sadness or depression. See if it's something that is fixable within the family. Then set up a visit with your child's doctor, and that's what I was saying. Like your pediatric care should be the first one you go to because they should be guiding you along the process. Because this is a big thing, like step up and try to figure out for yourself, let alone for a child or somebody under the age of 18 or that you're taking care of. And then from there, if everything comes back like physically well and you're doing good, that child's doctor should give you a list of therapists that you can set up, and then you'll set up a visit with the child's therapist. You'll do the child's therapist visits, and the biggest thing is to be patient and kind, and like we've said a million times in these, is know that the journey is going to be up and down. The roller coaster is going to be the kid's journey, so it's not going to be particularly like you might not understand everything that is going on.
Okay.
To be set for them. And the last one I just thought was sweet. It says enjoy time together. Just make sure you're not just focused on that. You don't want it to become everything, because then they're going to start shutting it down and shutting it off because they're feeling like that's all that they're becoming is that.
Well, I feel then they might think that like they're affecting your life too more, like they're being a bother. So that might be something else to keep an eye out for, is that you're not they don't feel like an inconvenience, you know. So
yeah, so that one was a big one for me when I saw it too, is like just make sure you're still living a quality of life with them, and you're still, I mean, obviously if it's like a big, they need that time to like get their headspace right, but they also need to see that you're still living like normally.
right, it's not like complete drastic change in your lifestyle just to focus directly on everything on them, so that then not always being brought up in their face of the things that they might be facing.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that it's good to bring up that it's okay to have these kinds of emotions. Like everybody goes through these emotions; they're not alone. Especially when they're developing and stuff like that. They feel like, oh, I feel like I'm the only one going through this, so they're probably going to shut down a little bit. So that's what I kind of talked to my little kids about. That I said, hey, it's okay to be sad right now because it's understandable, but things will get better and stuff like that. And it's okay to talk about your emotions, especially with young boys, because they're very taught like, hey, boys shouldn't be sad or depressed or anything like that. You should be kind of push it back in your back of your brain and just kind of handle it whenever it comes to
Gotta be tough.
the brain.
Can't be a baby.
They gotta be tough.
Don't be a little. Yeah. So. Yeah. I completely agree with that, and I catch myself still doing it with my kids. Like, why are you even crying, dude? You didn't do none. We're not even yelling at you. Relax. But it's very true. You got to be in touch with your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why Alyssa has something else for us here shortly.
Yeah, that's all I have for that topic. Obviously we can dig deeper, but I did drop a lot of deep, hard kind of facts about how this stuff can affect children, different things that you can do and watch for, and baby CD. I guess you too, if you have anything.
You noticed, you said the things, the growing pains, the signs of that in their sleep pattern and their diet and everything like that. Of course,
Yeah.
they're gonna change as they grow up and they find out what they like more or whatever they're doing. And with school starting, I know our sleep schedule, we try to stick to a tight one, and we're not the best at the sleep schedule kind of thing, but you'll notice their behavior during that time and they eventually come into their own on that. But just recognizing your kids out of placement in that situation. Like if they feel out of place, they're gonna show it as a kid because they don't really know anything else. So just paying attention to your children, you'll see more signs before they even talk about it. So because they don't, again, a lot of them don't know how to express their feelings or know what feeling they are actually feeling at that time. So just noticing your children and their behaviors and things they do is huge. I'm not saying you have to be up their butt or they have to be up your butt to notice these things, but just show them the decency of actually paying attention to them.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So the next thing I want to talk about is the feeling wheel, and that kind of goes with both for like children and adults.
Okay. Let me bring it up.
Yeah, you can bring it up. The feeling wheel is often used for people to understand that when you just say that you are mad, scared, happy, this one says powerful, peaceful, all of that, those are such a broad feeling. And then it gets broken down into you can really say actually what you're feeling. And all these emotions are based on the person. I can say that I am feeling very frustrated right now or sarcastic, and that feeling to me could be felt very differently than those two same feelings for Ryan.
Right.
When you do this, you have to sit down and understand what that feeling means to that person.
Okay.
Again, it's perception. Like there is that definition to it, but everyone places in life, they've been through something and they've placed a feeling there. And you don't know what that thing was, but in that moment, they went through something and they said, that made me feel lonely. And it can
Okay.
be something different than what somebody else felt in a lonely moment. So they're all different. They all mean the same thing, but they all have a different level of feeling.
Right.
If that makes sense. So you could sit with your kids, you could sit with your partner, you could sit with whoever, you could sit with a friend and say, all right, today, how are you feeling?
Right.
How are you feeling?
Me? I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
was trying to move the graph around so I wasn't blocking anybody's face. I'm happy today.
Well, which one under that happy or that joyful would you say most?
Pull it up bigger so I can see it. Blocking the screen if I do it on the stream.
It's like, I'm blind, I can't see.
Yeah. Bring it up bigger. All right. So under joyful, I'm feeling hopeful.
Okay, so what does hopeful mean to you?
Hopeful to me means that I see things going in a positive direction that are going to be beneficial and bring excitement and happiness to my life.
How do I feel today?
Yeah.
I feel content. So I just guess I feel peaceful right now.
Yeah, so under peaceful,
Yeah.
which one of those best describe you?
I'm relaxed right now.
What to you does relaxed mean?
Nothing going on in my life right now that I should be, that's in the forethought front of my brain that I should be worried about because, well, right now I'm on vacation, so I don't worry about anything. Usually I'm not relaxed and content. Usually I'm super stressed because I got to take care of 1,001 people and animals at home. So now I'm just kind of relaxed and peaceful right now. And you're of zoo.
So what would be your definition of Relaxed, Ryan.
My definition of relaxed. Ooh. Relaxed comes in different forms, but my main sense of being relaxed is, honestly, God, when the kids go to sleep and I ain't got to worry about them and the wife's sleeping. So everybody is happy. Everybody looks so peaceful and comfortable when they're sleeping, right? Now you don't have to attend to anybody else. You can just focus on yourself. So relax for me is not having to worry about the 2002 things that you have to do throughout the day, right? And then you can just breathe for a second. The world pass you by for a few minutes.
What would be your definition of hopeful?
Hopeful.
Yeah.
Having something to look forward to and hoping that it turns out to be a good outcome. Like, yeah, hoping that something comes out with a good outcome at the end. And being motivated to do that thing because I'm so hopeful to do it. So.
All right, teacher, what you got for us?
That's essentially how the feeling will
No,
work.
you don't think you get excluded from this.
Okay. Which one am I feeling?
How are you gonna read it? How do you feel right now about reading that?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you don't get to read it and go from there.
I feel thankful. That's what I feel.
Thankful, okay. So now let's look under. Where's thankful under?
Like the peaceful.
Under peaceful. So you have thankful.
And what's thankful to you?
Thankful is kind of being content where I'm at, but also like knowing that there's going to be more.
Okay. You see what you're.
See, that would be my hopeful almost. So yeah, you see thankful and hopeful differently than I do.
Right, and that's why we're special individuals here, because we all individually think differently. That's why this wheel is important. It's not not everybody has the same definitions or feelings as each other. So,
and they do say in like the thing of this is like, this is not all the emotions that you can feel. Like you can't just look at this and be like, I gotta feel one of these. Like this is a lot of emotions, but they're not all the emotions you can feel. This is just a broad. And I remember this actually when Tyler and I first started dating, because Tyler and I think very differently. So I would like say, I'm feeling this way, and he'd be like, what? You're feeling that way? So we actually did this for a while. It was like, you need to understand what I'm saying when I'm saying it to you. And I need to understand what you're saying when you're saying it to me, because we would get into little bicker fights over nothing because we were communicating. We just weren't communicating on the same level, because he'd be thinking I was saying one thing and I'd be thinking he was saying another thing. And I'd be like, how are you feeling that in this moment? He was like, but that's what this means to me. And
absolutely.
I'm like, okay.
And that's glad why Casey brought that up, because it makes perfect sense, because that's her hopeful and you're thankful. So, and me, honestly, me being thankful is just remembering what I have in this moment and thinking that it could be a lot worse. So I'm thankful for the things that I have currently and considering what I've had prior to. So that's my thankful, is looking at what I currently have and being thankful for it. So.
But yeah, that's pretty much why I paired these together, was you can start this young so that people understand that people may be saying like, I feel hurt or angry, and those could be, that person could just be feeling a certain way and you're not understanding how they're actually feeling until you sit down and understand what hurt means to that person or what angry actually means to that person. Because your definition of angry and hurt could be very different than my definition of angry and hurt. And I could go to like upset, and all those can intertwine. But until you truly understand what that person is saying to you, you can never understand and be on the same page.
Absolutely. It's like for later in life for adults that get married and go through things. There's this thing called 5 love languages. It's legit. My wife made me read it and go through it, understand it, and it has probably saved a lot of our fights and our bickering and understanding, because we now understand each other and what we need from each other and how to crazy your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So your feelings are everywhere.
That's what I got was,
Okay.
so it's like intertwined, but the feeling wheel can work with anybody. It can work at a workplace, it could work in a relationship, it could work with your kids, it could be
Friends,
working
family members, anywhere, right? So the sooner that people get in tune with their feelings and understand their own feelings, though, is the way they can get help or better explain themselves to other people in the moments, because again, we don't all have the same feelings or definitions of the feelings together. So your thankful was different than her hopeful. Her anger could be different than your sadness. Same, like those things can all be different. So the earlier that we can identify them in ourselves and understand them, the easier it will be to get the help or explain ourselves to others so that they can understand us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's again, major topic was to me was the children's mental health today, and it is something that I fear every day, because you see it more and more every day, and social media makes it apparent that there's a lot of it happening, and we just got to address it and make sure that we stand on top of it, so that we're noticing the signs, we're paying attention. That's one of the biggest things now. We can get so distracted by our phones or work or held school. For some of us that do work at school, I don't know, Casey, are you in school for anything?
No, thankfully I graduated
Okay.
2019.
There you go. So yeah, she's good. So like sometimes that life consumes you when you got so much else to focus on, and you might not be paying attention to those around you. We just got to make sure that you take them a few extra moments a day to just ask them how their day was, or see what's been bothering them, see if there's anything that did upset them or what made them happy.
And don't think the way that your kids are feeling is a reflection on how you're parenting, because some parents could be embarrassed that their kids are feeling depressed or suicidal, because they probably were thinking, well, what did I do and like to raise them up to be to this point. Don't be embarrassed, because it is natural, and it happens to everybody, to a lot of people, maybe not everybody, but it can happen to a lot of people to have these different mixed emotions and feelings. And some people, I mean, your kids are, I mean, they are you, but they're their own person too. So they might not have the same feeling that you had whenever you were their age, but it's definitely not like, it's not showing that you did a bad job parenting or anything.
Love that.
And
Thank you.
you're being a great parent for even, seeing what was going on. So
I love that, because that makes a very, very valid point. And a lot of people forget that it's not about them always either. And they get worried about what other people think of them because their children are going through these things. But in reality, it's not about you at that point. So stop worrying about what other people are thinking about what is going on in your household, and start focusing on your child, because it's about the children. So thank you for bringing that up. That hit. I love that. So I don't have anything else on that topic. I do want to share that during Labor Day weekend, I went with, it would have been my real dad's, my brother and sister from my real dad up north. they started this thing called high low when they were children. You talk about your highs from the weekend. Well, they do it each night. Every night before they all split ways and go on their way, they do high low. You talk about the highs of the day for you, and then you talk about your lows for you throughout the day. And then the day we all got in our cars to go our separate ways, we did high low for the overall weekend and the things that were what they liked, what they didn't like, basically. So that's something that we started in my household, and that has been absolutely helpful and amazing, not only for the communications between my wife and I, but my kids, my wife, and myself, and noticing if there's any patterns throughout the week that are causing them their lows that we can help change or fix. And I love it. It's been great. It's helped raise mine, because then now it forced you to talk about it. So high
I
lows.
love the. I was gonna say I love that the lows are added in there too, because you're pointing out that we're not perfect people.
We're days. Not every day is gonna be perfect.
So being able to be like, yeah, this was good,
Yeah,
but there was this.
absolutely. And then you ask them how they felt about it. You know, what? That's been good with that. Casey, I appreciate you for sitting here. You didn't have to be here. Your insight's been,
Of course.
yeah. Alyssa, do you have anything else?
No.
Me neither. It's been a long week. So
Has been a very long week. That's for
yeah.
sure.
All right, guys. With that, we are going to conclude this week's segment. We will be back in a couple weeks. Hopefully, the same time frame. Looking like it's going to be Sunday afternoons for Eastern Standard, and early day for you guys over there, right? 12:30. So right afternoon. Next topic we will be discussing, and then we will let you guys know what it is, and we hope to see you guys there next week, or 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today. So again, on behalf of Fly High Wi-Fi, myself, Alyssa, Casey, we just want to say thank you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.